you'll pick up the words.
Some of it I can translate.
Tomorrow I'm planning on making photocopies so you can write the words in as you go. Today I didn't get a chance. He says, Bechinas Mayim Rabim Hanal. This level called the mighty waters, as we explained, Nikra Mei Noach. This flood waters are called the waters of Noach. In other words, it's interesting because that they get called on Noach's name. He was primarily the good guy. It should be like the waters of the evil people, right? Because it was the flood. But nonetheless, the waters are called on his name. They're called waters of Noach. Where do we see that? So it says, Asher nishbati ma'avur mei Noach od ala haaretz. There's a promise in Shaya later on in Tanakh. Hashem says, I swore never to bring forth the waters of Noach again onto the earth. So you see that the flood was called by Noach's name. Ki nishbati mikzof alayich umegar bach. He says basically, I swore because, in other words, from my anger towards you, so I made a swear. I knew I was going to get angry with you again. So that's why I made an oath. I'm not going to destroy the world again. But nonetheless, from this, the main point of this verse we see is that they're called, these flood waters, Mayim Rabim, are called Mei Noach. Ki hine Noach hu neicha derucha. What's interesting about it is that these flood waters, which are essentially a bad thing, it's the flooding of all the foreign thoughts, but the word Noach is a good thing. The name of these waters, neicha derucha. It means like a pleasant spirit, a resting of the spirit, relaxation. Right? The flood waters is called relaxation. Shu bechinas shvisa, which is like rest, ka'adam hashoves malachto, like a person who rests from his work. At first you were busy. The idea of Shabbos he's going to say in a second. Here, let's read the next verse. K'mosh kasuv vayishbos bayom hashvi'i. As we say in Kiddush, right? We said last week's Parsha that you rested on the seventh day. V'targumo v'nach b'yom hashvi'i. We see that the word rest, Shabbos, its translation in Aramaic is nach, means Noach. Like the word manucha, rest. So what's the idea? He says like someone who rests from his work. So it says elsewhere the concept of Shabbos and rest is when a person's working, let's say you're building something. So even though you have the ability to sort of meditate and think deep thoughts, when you build something, you have to sort of contract your real potential of what it means to be a human being and put your thoughts into your hands and basically the thought which takes place in the hands is a very, very limited aspect of thought. It's still a craftsman's work, so there's some intelligence involved in forming a vessel, let's say, but not nearly the level of intelligence that would be found in the brain itself, right? It's a contracted machshava maisi. It's a practical type of thought. So that is a burden, so to speak, on the soul. Every time you have to contract yourself and like stuff yourself into this state of limitation, it's work. And this is the idea that Shabbos is like someone who rests from their work, that you come out of those contractions and you relax from having to contract yourself down into this job. And that means your kochos and your powers sort of replenish themselves and you can once again regain your former status and your former level of intelligence, and it's a relaxation. So this is what happens on Shabbos as well. The contractions which go into creating the world, where Hashem has to limit himself and minimize himself each day, is called Ma'isa Bereshis. It's like the workman contracting himself into Yom Rishon, into Yom Sheni. When he gets to Shabbos, he rests from his work, which means there's an opening up of all those contractions, and a deeper, more expounded level of godliness is available. Because he's no longer, that's what it says, Vayachal Elokim. Right? So on Shabbos we say that Elokim ceased. And Elokim, of course, is the name of Hashem, which makes the tzimtzum, contractions. So this is the same concept here, that the Mei Noach means to rest. It means it's basically an expansion. Even though it's the flood waters, since they're called Mei Noach, it means somehow these waters are like a good thing. And that's what he says in the pasuk. It says Noach, Beis Pamim 2 times. Eva told us Noach, right? So it says right away his name is doubled. So him Naichet the Eloi v'Naichet Atatoy. These are basically two levels of rest: higher rest and the lower rest. Shubachin is Shabbos Tata v'Shabbos Ilo, which is basically the lower Shabbos and the higher Shabbos. What is that? The lower Shabbos is what we have now, and the higher Shabbos, Sheyeh Lasid, which will be in the future. Shenikra Yom Shekulo Shabbos. It's the idea of like ultimate rest, because when we have the rest, and then right away we come back to the weekday. So we have this expansion, if you will, of what Shabbos represents, but then the contractions come back again. But in the future, it's going to be Yom Shekulo Shabbos, Manucha L'chai Olamim. See, right in that pasuk it says Manucha. So it says, that's called Shabbos Ilah. That's the higher Shabbos. So when it says Noach, it's already indicating both levels of Shabbos. Masha Inkin Shabbos Tata, Eino Kulo Shabbos. It's not a complete Shabbos, Kasher Yisbar, as we'll explain later. He says, Kihine L'chora Eino Muvan. So we're coming to understand why these floodwaters have a positive connotation to them, in that their name is waters of rest. And he says, start by prefacing, the whole concept of the flood doesn't make any sense. In Mabu. If the purpose of the flood was merely as it seems, to remove and destroy the sinners, why would there need to be such a balagan, such a great noise and tumult to flood the whole world with water? It's kind of like a dramatic move on Hashem's part. Couldn't Hashem in an instant remove them from the world, af below a mabul, even without the mabul? Right? You have a problem with these people? They're gone. What's the whole concept of propping up the thing in this big drama of flooding the entire world and drowning everybody? It's kind of a dramatic thing. If it's just to remove them, it doesn't look like Hashem would do something like that. It's too much effort. So really, it's not so simple. It wasn't just to kill the sinners. That was one function. But it was also to purify the earth. It says right before the flood that the world was filled with Hamas, much as it is today. Huh? Hamas. So the idea is Hamas is over there, it means literally theft. But, okay, it's just like a disgusting behavior, basically. And they had basically gone off the derech. They tripped up very much. It became distorted. And there was a need, latara, for purity. And that's why Hashem removed the sinners with this tremendous drama. Shubachinas Mayim. The whole idea is that there's this mystery of water, that water purifies things. In order to purify the impure. Which is just like a mikvah. But 40 saw, that's why also the waters were for 40 days. Right? That the whole thing was a big mikvah for the world. The world had become impurified, the world had become filthy. And Hashem didn't want to just kill the bad guys. He wanted to purify the world again. That it would once again regain its former status. Shimetaheres es hatami. It purifies the impure. That's why Hashem did it in such a way, in order to purify the entire earth. As it says, I sprinkled upon you pure waters, and you became pure. So officially that's talking about the purifying of the dead, right? It's sprinkling the waters of the red heifer mixed with the ashes of the red heifer, but the concept of, we see that in all places, water is what purifies.
So they purified the dead, so they rise again?
I'm saying that's the simple meaning of this verse, that it would sprinkle upon you water. But here he's saying that the whole concept of sprinkle